Great time for businesses in South Africa to consider transformative drives as the upswing in the economy is foundation to link an emerging markets with the world. So back to the point of, you kind of have to look at what is happening with your business and with the economy in general, and how can you take this phase zero, the planning concept, and the whole digital transformation strategy you pursue. How can you take that and apply that in a way that takes into account some of these macro external factors, as well as obviously the internal strategy that you're pursuing. But here's a question I want to get to that sort of segues into some other questions I have. This is from William on LinkedIn. William says, what kind of tools are there or could there be to ensure phase zero is done thoroughly and smoothly? So maybe could you walk us through, the tools and or just the high level approach, or some of the
Sure.
pieces? I know we've got a whole PowerPoint deck that we dive into with clients to really unpack this concept in a bit more detail. And it's hard. We're consultants, so you and I might have a little trouble unpacking this verbally instead of having our PowerPoint to fall back on. But could you maybe just summarize some of the components of phase zero, or some of the things to be thinking about as we think about phase zero?
Yeah, there are two ways to approach this, right? You can do this internally, and certainly your bright people, your wicked smart people, and the teams that you put together for transformation can really develop an assessment of the organization from both a technical standpoint and a process standpoint. People readiness, understanding where people sit, how many people would be needed for the initiative that we're about to embark on, budgets, finance, all of that stuff can be pulled together internally. At third stage, we use a series of tools and methodologies that are really just very well outlined in what we call the pre-launch checklist. So on our website, you can go in, you can pull down the pre-launch checklist. That'll get you started in a very great way in terms of kind of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps that should be taken in order to really understand where you need to be as an organization to get to where you want to go. Begin with the end in mind, right? So what do we want this to look like at the end, and how do we get there? And then just back into everything that's going to make that happen. With us, we do bring these proprietary tools to understand exactly what the organization is capable of from a people standpoint. We have a number of surveys and executive alignment workshops that we pursue to understand and really quantify what the ability and the willingness to move forward in synchrony is all about. Likewise, we have tools that can actually dive into the technical aspects of the infrastructure, the number of systems that you have working, the interoperability of those systems. One of the other failure points, if you will, for digital transformations is the failure to properly manage data, right? So the data migration piece, the data understanding of the data and item and vendor master information, data cleansing, preparing the organization in that way to be able to move forward is something that many organizations can do internally, but it's better done with a third party coming in and actually providing an objective view of what is the real picture here and how can we help you in moving forward that data strategy and everything else that needs to come together.
Yeah. And I just popped up a QR code that you can use to download that pre-launch checklist from our website if you'd like. So just scan that.
Thanks, Eric.
You bet. I mean, you're doing all the talking, so I had time to go put up a QR code there for you. It's to give people and have everyone access to that. So hopefully that helps as you guys are scanning that, and I'll pop it back up again later too, because I'm going to take it down in a second to get some more questions, but I'll put it back up in a few minutes. But I do want to get to a couple other questions here that we're getting a lot of questions now coming in. But here's one from X Devet again. How do we package big company transformation strategies for small to medium-sized companies that are highly dynamic and have smaller budgets? I think it's a great question. So how do we right size this whole phase zero concept to scale it up or down depending on how big we are and what our budget is and the scope of our project and all that good stuff?
I really love that question, because think about this. I mean, if you're building a house, you're going to go to a general contractor or a builder or someone to help you understand exactly what kind of house you want to build, where you're going to put it, how you're going to go through the entire process of constructing that house. Doesn't matter if you're constructing a 2-bedroom bungalow or you're constructing, a 15-room mansion, something like that. I see the phase zero in the same way. Scaling up, whether you've got, 3 people on your core team or you've got 30 people on your core team for the digital transformation that you're planning on embarking on. The phase zero approach may be shorter for a smaller organization and involve fewer people, but there really is a scale in that. And, the important point is not to avoid or forget that the upfront planning and the upfront, business case for doing this is the important thing. And it's even more important for smaller organizations that may have a limited budget, that may have limited capacity in terms of their people. Their people are not going to be participating in a full-scale implementation of new software that lets them take their day job and put it aside and do something on the implementation project teams for a year. That's not going to happen in a smaller organization. So it's even more critical for the smaller and mid-sized businesses to go through this process.
Right. Yeah.